Hey guys, and welcome to the stream. I want to do a quick intro for my YouTube viewers once I get everything set up here. Just give me a second. Alright, and I want to give a quick intro to the YouTube viewers because before I had a Twitch channel, I still have my YouTube channel for flight sim videos, but I haven't posted there in a while since I've been on Twitch. So I'm gonna start pushing some of my Twitch streams to YouTube to keep that going. I'm going to be a little bit more selective about which ones I push compared to what I save in my highlights. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of continue that and show what I've been flying lately and share some of my ideas about flight sim stuff that I've had recently. So I'll be talking in a little bit more detail than I usually do on my Twitch streams about why I'm flying the aircraft that I'm flying and some of the add-ons that I'm using for this particular stream. So without further ado, we're going to be flying in Idaho today from Johnson Creek Airport, which is where I'm at right now, in the Goose as usual. And let's get aboard, and then once the engines are running, I'll share with you the flight plan and all that jazz. Jump in the cockpit. You may notice that I'm zoomed in a little bit further than normal on my flights, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well after I get things started. So I've got my Goose checklist here. We did a visual inspection outside, closed the door. Fuel oil levels 54 gallons, that's correct, at least in that engine. I'm not sure why it's not showing for the left engine. Pre-start checklist. Here, flaps are stowed. Fuel tanks, I have to bring those up in the 2D panel. They're on. It's actually, turn the avionics off. You can turn the nav lights and the beacon lights on. Just running through the 2D panels, which with this aircraft it helps to have those open. I'm going to set my trim for takeoff at, let's try it at 0.5. In a real aircraft it's supposed to be set to neutral, but with the yoke that I have, I tend to set it a little bit more upward trim. Alright, so we're going to do mixture rich here, not all the way since we have elevation we're dealing with. We are at about 5,000 feet. So I'm going to do 75% mixture, should be good, both engines. I'm going to crack the throttles, make sure my parking brake is on because I do have ground friction bug fix that I'm going to be testing out. So once those engines start, if I don't have the parking brake on, then they start moving. And beacon's on, we're ready to start. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start it the way it says in the manual. What that requires me pulling up a 2D panel. So the mags have to be off. And once I hit the starter, I'm going to turn the mags on, and that will start the engine. So let's give that a go. There we go. Hey Fuzzy, welcome to the stream. Yeah, I haven't been streaming as often as I usually do, but slowly but surely been doing some flights in the Goose. So there's the right engine. Let's start the left engine. And we're gonna idle at about 1,000 RPM. Left engine started, fuel pump can come off. Okay, so while those warm up, I'm just gonna go over my flight plan here. pull it up on the screen for you guys. There we go. So this is the flight plan, and as usual I have a link to it on my channel page. And just make it a little bit better for you guys to see it. Let's see, there we go. It goes all the way down to the screen now. Down to the bottom of the screen, that is. So we're going to be flying from Johnson Creek Airport down to Boise Airport. It's a typical flight for me on Flight Sim Economy, which is a persistent world for flight sim fans, where they can rent aircraft and lease aircraft and run mostly VFR, or rather general aviation type jobs, and get virtual money and eventually buy their own aircraft. You can buy fixed base operator buildings and things like that. So I've been having a lot of fun with that lately. Our flight plan is going to allow us to fly through some of these canyons here, and I am using the Blue Sky Scenery freeware in Idaho, which is going to be really nice to look at, in my opinion. And if you guys are wondering about some of the add-ons that I'm using, you can always go to my Twitch channel page, and I'll have a link to that once this gets on YouTube, and you can take a look there, and I have under FSX add-ons all the list of add-ons that I'm running. So I've taken off from Johnson Creek Airport before, and we're going to be taking off north because south departure is not recommended, and we're going to be using runway 35. So there's no winds forecasted in the nearest weather station. Let me just quickly jump back here and make sure the temperatures are good on the engines. Down the throttles a little bit to about 1100 RPM. Okay, so overhead temperatures look good. Can't get my head high enough there for the, there we go. Track IR, I put the track IR receiver in a different spot, so it should work a little bit better today, but still requires a little tweaking. Our avionics can come on right now. There we go. We're departing maybe 55 heading, and our first course according to SkyVector is 179. So we're going to have to make a turn after departure in the canyons so that we can get back on track, because we're going to be departing north, but we're going to have to eventually head southward. Oh, that's really cool, Fuzzy. Fuzzy says he started flying FSX with the Oculus Rift. Yeah, that's really, I've been wanting to try that, but you're saying the resolution's not high enough. That's a shame, but you know, it's a start. I don't know when they're going to increase the resolution on that one, but yeah, that's something I've wanted to try. It looks really, really cool for flight sim. I'm trying to resize this GPS, but you have to get it like right in the corner for the GPS to resize. Okay, I'll just do it this way. Okay, that should be good. So I'm going to do the takeoff briefing for you guys. Okay, we're going to be using a standard flap setting and standard power setting for the departure out of Johnson Creek Airport, runway 35. The runway heading is 355. We're going to climb standard climb with flaps 30 to help us turn in the canyon, and we are going to do a left-hand turn to get back onto course of 179, and that is the departure briefing. So you're using it, Fuzzy, for your private pilot's license training to fly circuits. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, yeah, one of the hurdles to overcome with the Oculus Rift is using the controls in the cockpit and clicking all the virtual cockpit controls. I'm not sure if you can still use the mouse in the cockpit. I would assume you can, but that's you don't have that visual feedback in when you're clicking in your virtual cockpit if you're using the Oculus Rift virtual reality environments. Okay, so the engines look good. I'm going to check that flight sim economy is running, and it is. So I'm just going to taxi to the edge of the runway, and then we can do a run-up. So one of the things I'm testing in the title of this video, I said that I'm testing 3 tweaks to FSX. And the first one is the ground friction bug fix. So there's kind of a notorious thing in FSX that you really need to, once you're on the ground in an aircraft, you really need to give it an unrealistic amount of throttle for the aircraft to start moving. And there's a nice easy fix for that I just found, and I tested it a little bit once I installed it, and it seems to work. So right now we're just above 1,000 RPM, and usually in FSX, if I didn't have this fix, we would be hey Rush, welcome to the stream. Oh, Fuzzy, you get virtual hands in your virtual cockpit? Do you actually see the hands, like as you're moving them? If you have track, I guess that wouldn't really work unless you had some kind of tracking device. But hey Rush, no worries. Thanks for stopping in. Rush says he's stopping in to say hi. So yeah, so the ground friction bug fix. If you guys haven't found it, I have a link to it on my channel page. So usually this aircraft would not move if I release the parking brake, but now we're ready to roll, so I'm going to release the parking brake, and you can see that just at 1,000 RPM it starts to move, which is just fantastic. I think it makes taxiing a lot more realistic in FSX, and I think the way that they had it before, you know, with the friction bug, probably encouraged some bad habits for flying, because you'd always have to like play around with the throttles when you're taxiing in the simulator, and in real life you have to just kind of set the taxi throttle setting that you want and just kind of keep it there. You're not really supposed to dance the throttles around too much. Let's see, still getting a little bit of the friction, having to increase it to about 1,300. The other thing that the ground friction fix does is reduces the unrealistic tendency to slide across the runway during landings. If you're coming in with a slight sideward component, it's going to pretty much slide you across the runway in some aircraft. So I am flying on VATSIM right now, but as usual in this area, there's nobody around, no ATC. But I just like to log in the event that we will run into another aircraft or a controller that logs in for the Idaho airspace. So now that I'm testing it a little bit more, I'm still seeing a similar ground friction as before, though the aircraft does start moving initially at 1,000 RPM. But it also may be that we are currently using the floater reel scenery, and we're technically probably off the runway right now and in the grass, so it may require a little bit more power to get us moving. I'll also test the ground friction once we're at Boise, Idaho airport, because that'll have some standard taxiways. Maybe it'll be easier to taxi there. We're squawking 1200 for this flight. 8500 is going to be our cruising altitude, although I'm going to try to stay lower in the canyons so that I can test the other tweak, which is Cumulus X. It's a freeware add-on for FSX. Like all these three tweaks are freeware, but Cumulus X adds a more realistic flying environment among mountains. It adds like ridge lift. It also adds thermals that are more realistic. It's really made for gliding, but if you do mountain flying in GA aircraft, it also simulates those effects and makes it more realistic. So I'm going to try to get a little closer than usual to some of the canyons and see what kind of effect Cumulus X has. So I'm just going to get her turned around here so that we can do a run up and get going. So parking brake is set. I'm gonna increase to 1500 RPM. Once that stabilizes, I'm going to check a few things. I may GPS for a second. Check the mags. Right engine mags look good. Left engine looks okay. And carb heat, not really sure how to check that in the sim. I don't notice the carb heat increasing. Don't notice the carb heat. Maybe just a little. Just shoots up a little bit. And what else do we have for the run-up? Needles check, carb heat check. Check to make sure generators are taking the load when one of them is turned off, and we can get ready to put our pitot heat on for takeoff as well. So that's the run-up. So before takeoff checks are going to be trims, controls are free and set, mixtures are set, propellers go forward, carb heat is cold, flaps 30 for takeoff in these conditions. Two selector set, and avionics and gear are set. So we are ready to take off. Just gonna mark the time. And the third FSX tweak that I'm testing is the wide aspect view tweak in Flight Sim Config. And I was clued into this. Oh, thanks A2A Pilot, welcome to the stream. A2A Pilot said that RPM should drop when carb heat is on, so let's check that. Let's see if that is modeled. So carb heat comes on, and RPM is actually rising a bit. That might be from because I didn't wait for it to stabilize. Let's see if it continues to rise once I have this turned off. And it doesn't. So maybe that's not modeled in this particular aircraft. It is pretty basic, even though I've enhanced it slightly with some add-ons. Other than that, we can get going. So just the tail wheel lock left to go once we're lined up. So the third tweak that I'm using is the wide aspect view, and that pretty much ensures that what you're seeing through your little computer monitor is as though you're looking through a window to the actual aircraft, and everything is to scale more or less, and distances relative to other objects are accurate. And there's a nice set of videos by a YouTube user by the name of Almost Aviation where he talks about this, and it should help with especially approaches, because relative distances on approach become important. Alright, got positive rate here if you come up. More up trim. So we're going to be flying north through this canyon, and I'm going to turn around and be on my way. I did actually want to practice a pattern, but yeah, maybe we'll just practice one touch and go, because I want to see if that sliding sideward tendency is still there on landing. Just power just a little bit. Fuel pump should have probably turned that on. Turn that on low in the canyons. So I'm going to keep the flaps up just to help us with the turn here. Landing elevation is 5,000 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 4,960. So I'm gonna stay at about 6,000 for my touch to enter the pattern. And come down on the RPMs, and I'm also gonna come down on the mixtures to give us a little bit more power in the mountains, a little bit more boost. And I'll leave the landing lights on. So I'm going to do a turn right here once I clear this ridge. Things I've been practicing is to do steeper turns in these canyons, which is pretty much a requirement for some of the patterns in these smaller airports. Johnson Creek Airport, where we took off from, is nice. I like it because it's got a longer runway than most of these canyon airports. So I'm going to do the landing checklist. 4 landing checklists. So I'm going to lower the gear here. Start our descent. The best way to get into runway 17 Johnson Creek is, I found, just to follow this road that leads through the canyon, because it sets you up nicely for the approach. I'm going to do the gump checks. Gas is going to be set for landing. Undercarriage is down, mixture is set, props full, flaps are set, float's not necessary. So there's the runway, just up ahead. And slow down to our approach speed of 92 miles per hour, and see if I can do a better approach than I usually do. So not too bad. We're not sliding. I have to press on the gas here right away. This hill right here in real life is the reason why they don't recommend that you take off from runway 17. And if I were to actually do a go around the proper way, I would have had to swerve right before I got to that hill and not pass over it like I did. But as far as a practice landing, that wasn't too bad. The approach was better, and most importantly, what I usually get is I slide around after touchdown, slide to the side if I have a side component to the approach, and I didn't have that go on this time, so I'll call the ground friction bug fix a success, and yeah, I'm glad I found it. So since we're going to be continuing on to cruise, I'm going to put flaps up. We're going to climb at 110 miles per hour. It's the best rate of climb speed. And for now, I'm going to stay at about 7,500 because I want to get close to these ridges and test out Cumulus X. So I'm gonna set my cruise power right here. RPMs can go down to 2,100. Engines sound like they want to be leaned out, it seems to me. Although I'm not really sure what the proper settings here. I'm just leaning kind of like I do with the Cessna by the exhaust gas temperature until it spikes, and but that would put you at about 25%. You can see at 25% or at about 30%, the left engine has a higher RPM, but I bump it up to about 45 because yeah, I don't know if aircraft in real life, if that's realistic that they're ever leaned to 25% mixture. That may be just a quirk with FSX, but I haven't really looked into it too much. So the important thing for me here is to take the right exit. And let me just put the aircraft in autopilot for a second. Down to, let's say, 7,000. And I'm looking for a particular little river, and I'll show you guys on the stream. So I'm looking for this river right here, which takes us near this lake. So I think we're coming up on it soon if I haven't passed it already. Yeah, I think this is it right there. So where this fork happens, I'm going to need to take a right turn. I am feeling a little cocky, I should say, because I've been flying around these parts for a bit, and usually I'll create a flight plan for my VFR flying, but now I'm just kind of checking the GPS and the landmarks that I see out the window occasionally to make sure I'm on the right course. I have flown this route once or twice already, so I'm somewhat familiar with these canyons. Check the car temperature, that looks good. Never had a case yet where I had to turn carb heat on, but I've been flying in the summer, all these flights. So we've taken, which I hope is the right turn in the GPS, and we may have to climb over this terrain. So I'm going to use the opportunity to continue my climb. Should have increased RPMs first. We'll set it to max continuous, which is 36 inches in this aircraft, and 2,300 RPM. trim up a bit since we are looking for 110 miles an hour climb. Give you guys an exterior view of the Goose climbing out. And I just noticed I forgot to turn off my landing lights. Actually, that might be cool to see because they do retract. Let's try that again. So once we get the new view for the flyby, I'll show you guys so you can better see. So these lights should. Oh, never mind. That wasn't ended. The lights turn off and then you can kind of see them retract up, which is pretty nice. So back in here, just at our cruise altitude. So back down to 2100 RPM and 29 inches of manifold pressure. Looks like I have to follow this road. So back to the wide view aspect. This one's the hardest to explain because I gotta admit the videos by Almost Aviation, they get a bit technical, but it was I had to watch them twice, and it was really enlightening once I watched them the second time because I actually can follow what he's talking about and how, you know, most people just get into the cockpit and then, you know, if they need to see more of the controls in their screen, they'll just zoom out. But that's actually creates, first of all, distortion effects that are unrealistic, and second of all, objects outside of the window here relative to one another, if you're just zooming out, will not appear as accurately. So there's a way to adjust your just your views for your monitor, which kind of retains the accurate proportions of objects outside of the cockpit. So once you turn wide view aspect on in your FSX config, every time you zoom to 1.00 level, that should be the accurate level of zoom to have. And that, of course, that does depend on how far away you stand from the monitor. So the monitor vertically should take up about 35% of your vision. And there are some formulas to calculate whether your eye point is far enough or not far enough. So interesting set of videos. It's going to be especially useful for me, I think, once I get a bigger monitor, and then I'll be able to take full use of that great advice. For now, once I'm zoomed in at 1.0, things do seem closer, and it's a good thing I have track IR because it does make it easier to see the environment around me. So now we're by this little lake, and check my Google map. I'm not going to bring it up for you guys just a second. But it looks like I'm going to have to continue on a course of 221 until Cascade Lake. So I'm going to set that course. So far I haven't seen too much of the effect from Cumulus X. It is supposed to generate some clouds. It may just be that, you know, there are not a lot of thermals in the area, and it does kind of clue you in when we see. Yeah, I think it's indicating that there just aren't particularly high amount of thermals in the area, and yeah, so maybe we have to test that out another day, but I'm hoping it kind of adds some realistic turbulence effects around ridges and canyons and things like that. It is a very popular pretty much essential piece of kit if you're flying gliders in FSX. So I think according to my flight plan, I'm supposed to roughly follow this road to the Cascade Lake area. And you know what? Maybe we'll even take a dip in Cascade Lake, because that's always fun. You don't. I've been flying in the mountains, and you don't always come across these large lakes where you can utilize the full water landing capabilities of this Goose flying boat. So I think that's the lake over there, peeking through. I'm just going to start I'm getting some weather here. See the visibility decreased after the weather loaded. Still seems to be mostly VFR conditions, so not too worried about that. And again, I'm not a real-world pilot, so all of my judgment calls here are just purely for fun, just in the simulator. If you're doing mountain flying in real life, you have to be a lot more careful than I am being here. And you have to really know your stuff to fly in these areas. Like for instance, I didn't do a proper weather check before I left. I just kind of hoped for the best and jumped into the Goose and took off in the sim. But when you're doing canyon flying, knowing the weather and knowing when to turn away is extremely important in real life. So for the YouTube viewers, since this will be the first video that I push to YouTube from Twitch, I think I left off with my last video. I was trying to kind of settle on an aircraft that I'd focus on for most of my flying. And at one point it was the Beech 18, at another point it was the Beech 1900. But recently I've been flying the Goose a lot, partly because I have a very generous lease for it on Flight Sim Economy, and then also because it's a little bit of everything I like in the Flight Sim world. It's a GA aircraft, but it's also can be an airliner, and was used as such. It was primarily designed as a private plane, but it was also served in wartime. You guys may know that I like to fly the Warbirds. There's a lot of interesting skills to learn with this aircraft. It's a tail dragger, so that's a whole different ball of wax with the landings and takeoffs and taxiing. It's also a twin-engined aircraft, complex aircraft, and also an amphibian flying boat, so it can land on water and do water operations. So very dynamic aircraft. And most of what I'm using for it is are freeware add-ons, except for the sounds. The sounds are from a payware package for the Goose by Sky Soundworks, and but they weren't that expensive. I think it was like $8 for the sounds. And I've been adding a lot of little enhancements here and there to take this default Microsoft aircraft and turn it into a really nice simulator. So the cockpit here, the virtual cockpit, is an enhancement by FSX. guys at FSX. This does look different from the default Goose. I think I did a video on my channel earlier about using the default Goose, and if you may remember that, it's had a black dashboard here. And the exterior work is in high definition. Also, the exterior liveries look really nice. I'll show you guys a quick snapshot of that. See if you zoom in, it's a lot of detail. Every single rivet is detailed. It looks, textures look really beautiful. So that's an enhancement. And then of course the little tweaks that I mentioned that I'm testing out here. Fixing the ground friction, the viewing aspect. And my ultimate goal is to use the freeware Real Engine version 1.4 mod and adapt it to the Goose. I don't know if I'll be able to do that, but that would be really cool, because then that would automatically trigger failures if you abuse the engines and don't monitor your temperatures, which I tend not to do because right now there's not a lot of consequences to that. But with the Real Engine mod, it adds a level of realism that you find usually in AccuSim aircraft by A2A. Alright, so I'm just gonna come in to for a right turn to land in the lake. There is actually a resort on the northern side of the lake. I think it's called Tamarack Resort. I'll show you guys here. I'll bring this up on the screen. May have to go into a different map. This is VFR map, which you guys know that I like to use. If we go into satellite mode, you can see this is the resort right here. And it's kind of just north. There's like a little dock right here, just north of this tributary. So maybe we'll try to land. We'll try to land there, right next to the resort, just for fun. Continuing the descent. Just slow us down. Just got to make sure that I'm at the right speed for the flaps. So the flap extension speed is 110 miles per hour. So, and the float extension speed is 126. So I'm good on both counts. I'm going to actually lower the floats, turn on our fuel pump, and lower the flaps. That's going to cause a decent amount of drag that'll allow us to descend at a nice rate to get to where we want to land over there. So I'm going to increase the RPMs to 2300. And I'm going to try to keep the speed at about 105 miles per hour for the descent. And then we'll slow down to 92 miles an hour for the approach. And another good resource is this Grumman Goose checklist that I've printed out. It's kind of hard to find proper checklists for the real world Goose online, but if you go on FSIM under their file library and you search for the file name GGC.zip, GGC for Grumman Goose checklist. That's where I got mine, if you're interested. So I'm looking for that tributary that we saw. Looks like got a bit of a ways to go, so I'm going to increase the speed. Make sure we don't descend too fast. I mean, increase the throttle, is what I meant to say. So Cascade Lake is, let's see, what's the approximate elevation here. Usually in the terrain view. Okay. So it's about 5,000 feet, it looks like. I'm looking at 5,200 right there and 400 feet lower than that. So it gives me an idea of when we should expect to land. So it looks like that tributary that I was looking at on the map earlier is right there. So I want to land just north of that right there. And maybe if I'm lucky, there may even be that dock in the four-wheel scenery that I saw. So we can start our descent. I'm not going to worry too much if I don't quite land in the right spot. Do a before landing checklist. Gears up, that's good. It's going to be a water landing. Brakes not needed. Flaps are set. We're going to actually go to 60 degrees of flaps before landing. According to the pilot's operating manual, for water landings, flaps should be always set to 60. I'm going to wait because that's going to cause a lot of drag. I'm going to wait before we're on final. Propellers are going to go full forward as well on final. Carb heats will remain off. So it looks like we could use the extra bit of drag, so I'm going to go flap 60. Looks like there may be some boats or something in the water, which would be pretty cool. From what I can find, I don't think there are seaplane operations in real life in Cascade Lake. But hey, we're in the simulator, and I'm going to try to keep it safe here, avoid the boats, and have some fun with the water landing. Oh, look at that. That's a nice effect there. Alright, let's focus on the landing. So speed looks okay. I'm going to bring it down to just where that red line is, 92 knots for the 92 miles per hour for the approach. This airspeed indicator is in miles per hour, so make sure if you have a checklist like the one here that uses knots, make sure you convert that to miles per hour if you're using this panel for the V speeds. That was a mistake that I made. So we're going to go full RPMs for the final approach. Looking to land and pull up just right there. And speed's a little low, so we're going to pitch down. I'm not going to get too close to the land because I don't know how deep it is below the surface. I don't want to get stranded here. So 92 knot. Approach looks good. And then as we get close here, throttle back. Let the aircraft descend on its own. There we go. Looks good. Flaps come up, I think. I'm not sure if this aircraft has a water rudder. As far as I know, I think you just use the asymmetrical thrust from the engines to control the aircraft on the water. So a few of them can come off. I'm going to leave the engines running because if I turn one of the engines off, as I like to do, when I've made a stop at a location temporarily, FSC is going to log that as a flight, which is okay. I mean, it's just going to pick a nearby airport somewhere that we stopped at, but I'd rather not deal with that. So let's take a quick look outside. Here we are. Let's see if we can see the dock and the four-wheel scenery. Can't quite see it. Maybe it's that right there. You know, it'd be cool if we could pull up on this little. It looks like a ramp almost for a seaplane, but then there wouldn't be a lot of places to turn around and a lot of trees. And I'd probably get stranded. That's happened to me once. So I'm taking off. I gotta watch out for this boat. Yeah, we can get back on our way. So I'm gonna do a right-hand turnout and take off again. So flaps to 30 for the takeoff. I'm not quite sure what the Hey North Schooner, welcome to the stream. I'm just north of that ramp. Thank you. Yeah, I should probably, just out of interest, I can, once I get lined up, I can pull up a map. About 2,000 feet north. Cool. Yeah, let me just get turned around here. That's another reason I didn't want to get close to land. This thing takes a while to turn around in the water. It's kind of fiddly. So I've got full right rudder, quite a bit of asymmetric thrust. Should let it roll a little bit forward and then start to turn. Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, I've been flying a lot in Idaho area. There's a lot of really cool flying there. In the sim, I mean. I'm not a real world pilot, but yeah, this is a really kind of a hidden gem for flight simulation. Especially with this blue sky photo scenery, the freeware photo scenery that I'm using. It's really beautiful here. So let me take another look at that map. And I'll pull up. Let's see, what was I looking for? There we go. Pull this up for you guys as well. So we're looking at zoom out on the simulator a bit. Hold on Microsoft Word. Okay, let me zoom out here a bit. Oh, okay, yeah, I did go further north. Okay, I think what I was looking at was this thing right here. Yeah, because it's when you're in this view, it kind of flips it around so that north is not pointing up anymore. It's wherever your plane is facing. So, and that four-wheel scenery does look really nice, I gotta say. Yeah, that was the dock. Yeah, this is where the dock is. And maybe one of these days I'll try pulling up here, but I'm pretty sure I'll get stuck. So I don't want to ruin the flight. But yeah, that looks just marvelous with the blue sky photo scenery. I'm really happy with that. And big thanks to Flight SciTech. This is username on Twitch for turning me on to blue sky photo scenery. All right, so let's get back in the cockpit do a quick before takeoff check. Make sure that the trim is set. Oh, right there. So it's exactly where I wanted it. Controls are free. Mixtures are set them to about 75%. And heartbeat's cold. Flaps we're going to set to 30. That'll be good. And once we're on the step, I don't know if that's a procedure for the Goose, but it is for the Catalina. Once you get on the step during your takeoff roll, you pull up the water floats to help you take off. So, actually, yeah, I've never actually seen the Goose do that in real life. Now that I think about it, because I've seen some videos of water takeoffs. So maybe we'll wait until we're in the air. So I put the yoke toward me until we get some speed, and then once we get more speed, I bring it forward so that we get, it's called on the step. Which I don't know how well that's modeled in FSX, but real flying boats and amphibians, they have a problem actually getting out of the water because there's a lot of suction that's created below the hull. And they design the hulls in such a way that you can bring part of the aircraft up. So there's just kind of a small bit of fuselages in the water. That way it's easier for it to overcome that suction. So gear can come up, flaps can come up for a climb speed. Fuel pump, forgot to turn that on, that's okay. Let's go to standard climb setting and we'll be on our way to Boise, Idaho. Norse, do you live in Idaho or just kind of near the Rockies in general? So I'm going to take a look at, first let me help the engines out by putting the mixture back. Should give them a little bit more power. Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool, Norse. So you've actually been to these places. Forgot about the floats. It's not part of my standard procedure when I take off from land runways. There they go. And it's really cool because they become part of the wing. Up. It's the same way in the PBY Catalina where these are kind of funky. That's really neutral. Yeah, this would be a really cool place to visit. And yeah, Lake Cascade. It's a nice feature. I've been flying because I downloaded just part of Idaho with blue sky scenery. Kind of. Most of it is northeast of here with the small little airfields that I like. And I've been flying a lot on flights in economy between Boise and McCall Airport over to the north part of the lake. And so, yeah, I've passed by this lake a lot. It seems like a nice feature in the area to practice the water landings that I like. Maybe we don't need to be at 8,500 feet. I'm gonna go into. So one of the things I don't like about this aircraft is when you adjust the prop, it just kind of starts porpoising. I've never seen an aircraft do that in real life, even like a slight tendency. So I'm not sure if that's good or not. Actually, just gonna leave it on autopilot for a second here because I want to see what we can get away with as far as the cruise altitude goes. So I'm looking at the rest of my route from here. At the south side of the lake, we're going to go to heading of 180, and it looks like elevation here is not too high. Yeah, I think we can get away with 6,500 feet the rest of the way. So I'm not going to do 8,500. I'm actually going to descend for 500 feet. $2,100 on the RPMs for cruise and descent. So Norse Gunnar says that McCall is a resort kind of town. Okay, yeah, they have a nice sized airport there too. And you know what? This is a mistake that I made. I accidentally lowered the gear because I'm so used to pressing G after takeoff on land runways that I did it after this takeoff. So good thing I did my after takeoff checks, so you know it was kind of late. During the summer, it's used as a staging area for fire planes. Yeah, I noticed on the sectional chart, there was like a fire north of that area recently. A lot of fires in the summer in the western states. You can see them, see those areas outlined on the sectional charts because they warn pilots, or on the digital sectional charts on SkyVector, because they warn pilots not to fly over those areas. There's like a temporary restriction over them. Your next course. I'll show you guys what I mean here on the chart. This red area is a temporary flight restriction. So it says the reason there. There's a fire for 12 hours, and it depends on when you look. But you know, there's a bunch in California. Sometimes there's it's just this western part is just pockmarked with those types of restrictions. I'm going to go to 180 and according to my plan, I'm supposed to follow the set of roads. So I'm looking for them and where they go. Let me see. Maybe I'm turning too early. Let's bring this up for you guys. Back to our area. Zoom in here. Yeah, it's crazy. There's been a lot of yeah, a couple of weeks ago there were a lot of TRFs for the western states for fires. It's pretty crazy. This is Cascade Airport. So I'm gonna be following that river, the North Fork River. So that will that'll be my visual reference, and I'm pretty sure that's it right there. So 180 is the approximate course, and over that leg. So this river is going to be winding through here, and I'm just going to follow that as my reference and use the GPS when I need to. Just going to note the time real quick. So we have 11:36. Just so I don't miss our next waypoint. Our next waypoint, according to SkyVector, is Horseshoe Bend, which is approximately 37 nautical miles away. So that'll be about a 15 to 18-minute flight for us. So should be some nice, relaxing VFR flying if all goes well. I'm wondering why I've been struggling with altitude. That's because I'm still on my descent setting on my throttles. There's cruise, and that should get us back up to a decent cruise speed and to 6,500 feet. Some really nice looking shadows. Like, again, two-dimensional shadows, but from this altitude, you could fool me. It looks really nice. We have weather loading. Hopefully it won't send a bunch of clouds our way. That was good. Right in the mark for the course. Seems like. If you guys hear the aircraft sounds cut out for a couple seconds, that's just me checking the SkyVector chart. I just have one monitor right now, and once I click out of FSX, the sounds don't go through. So I expect to get to Horseshoe Bend at about 11:51 is when I should be looking for the next turn. So for those watching this on YouTube, once I push this video to YouTube, I think I'm mostly going to be flying in flight sim economy. My kind of preferences do tend to change kind of on a whim, but I've recently been doing quite a few flights in the Goose on flight sim economy. It's a nice area of focus that I like in the flight sim. I have a bit less time to devote to that, and I kind of want to pick an aircraft, and so I don't have to relearn. You know, if you switch aircraft a lot, you have to kind of get the feel for the aircraft again, and there's a bit of a period of time where you're just getting adjusted, but it's more interesting for me to try to master, one aircraft and stick with that, and get more in depth, rather than kind of scratch the surface of a lot of different aircraft, which is also fun, and I've done a lot of that. But so those are kind of my thoughts on flight sim recently, or rather preferences, I should say. I'm not saying that this is the way that everybody should use flight sim. It's a very personal hobby. A lot of people like to fly airliners. That's cool. I've had my share of airline flights as well. But yeah, I get inspired by other YouTube and Twitch streamers, and my recent inspiration has been all the guys that fly flight sim economy. Really glad I discovered that recently. But then also the guy over at Almost Aviation, his YouTube channel, he does a lot of VFR flying in like smaller fields like bush strips and stuff. And he also does like some home flight deck building, which is pretty cool. That's always something that interested me. I don't particularly have the space for it in my apartment right now, but I like to sketch up some ideas for, when I get a more roomy residence, what I can set up. And yeah, so flight sim economy, VFR flying, and the Goose has been treating me well. Blue sky scenery is a relatively new find for me in terms of installing it and trying it out. I've known about it for a while, but I was worried about how it interacts with Orbex Global, which is what I've been using. And I'm actually running Orbex Global and Blue Sky Scenery at the same time. And really in these areas, I don't really notice any kind of problems. I don't know, maybe I'm messing something up with the mesh or something like that, but it's not visible to me. And I don't really have a performance hit running both at the same time. So I am quite happy with that. But Blue Sky Scenery's coverage area is limited. If I want to fly somewhere else, I'll have to either rely on Orbex Global or download more tiles for Blue Sky Scenery. And, they are, these are photographs, so it gets to be quite a storage endeavor on the hard drive. Get in the habit of checking the temperatures more often. Make sure they're in the green. That's something I couldn't get away with in the Catalina, to ignore the temps, because the Aerosoft Catalina flying boat, it models that quite nicely. You really have to watch your engines. The cylinder head temperature would often rise. You would get carb icing, and you really had to make sure you were on top of your engines, so to speak. I'm going to put this on autopilot just for a second and see if we've reached Horseshoe Bend yet. This kind of looks like a bend of sorts, but I'm not sure if it's what we're looking for the next waypoint. So it looks like we're approaching this canyon where U88 is. So let me look at my sky vector. So Horseshoe Bend. Okay, so we're not there yet. The bend I was seeing was like this area right here. Horseshoe Bend is gonna. Well, there's a lumber mill there, which I'm not sure if we'll see that. Let's see how that looks in the satellite imagery. Horseshoe Bend. Okay, so this, if I'm looking at photoreal, this should be kind of a prominent area. There's like a track here. Maybe that's the lumber mill right there. So that's what I'm going to be looking for visually. It's the benefit of that photo scenery. Now that I'm back in the plane, I have to find that lake, that river. So it's just to our right. Keep following this. Look for the lumber mill, and then our next course is going to be 188. So we're going to be entering the Boise area, close to the Boise Class Charlie airspace. I'm on Vatson, but I doubt. Yeah, there's no ATC in the area, so I'm just gonna go straight in without any comms. I don't think there's any people around, so I don't even have to. Yeah, there's no people around on that, so I don't even have to put anything on 122.8. Although I should just monitor that frequency. And once we get to Horseshoe Bend, I'm going to briefly approach. Actually, going to start our descent here. Down to 5,500, or rather, it's the elevation at Boise Airport, and it's at 2871, so 4,500 should be okay, I believe, for now. Possible candidate for Horseshoe Bend, but it doesn't quite look like what I saw on the satellite map. So I'm gonna keep going. Let's get a better view of the western part of that tunnel. That's the one, yeah. That's probably it right there. That looks like a horseshoe to me. And yeah, one of the drawbacks of the photo scenery is, I'm sure there's some physics that would explain this, but when you're looking at it from far away, it's a very blurry image than when you're looking at it from above. Kind of like a photograph too. If you're looking at a photograph, like if you tilt it to the side like this and look at it, probably looks a lot less clear than if you, definitely looks less clear than if you're just looking at it head on. So there I see that track that I saw on the satellite imagery, and there's the lumber mill. So this is where we go to heading 188. do we actually follow? No, we don't follow the river anymore. I'm just gonna level out of 5500 because I want to make sure we clear the terrain that's ahead of us, and then continue our descent. So once we level out, I'm going to put it on autopilot and do the approach briefing. Autopilot on. Just going to get some data before I do the brief. Sky vector again. Boise Airport. Weather. General aviation, right? Yeah, that's right. Aerodynamic on the course. Altitude 2871. Going to be about 4,000 feet. Let's be more accurate and say 3,900. There's a right traffic pattern. Okay, so let's do the approach briefing. So this is going to be a visual approach into runway 10 right of Boise. I'm going to hand fly the approach. The event of missed approach, I'm just going to stay in the pattern, right traffic for runway 10 right, and I'm going to handle comms and controls. The runway heading is 100, and we're going to make a right turn off for general aviation parking. Local altimeter is going to be set automatically by FSX, and the standard approach speeds, flaps 30 wind, and no de-icing will be required, and that is the approach briefing. So I'm going to take it off of autopilot here and set the course for the runway heading. And while I'm at it, I might as well, if 10 right has an ILS, let me check. Might as well set that frequency in. It's going to be 111.1, easy enough. This will be a visual landing, but just as another reference, on her to set the ILS frequency. If I can tune it, that is. There we go. Continue our descent now that we've cleared the terrain down to, let's go to 3,900 pattern altitude. So at this point we would be talking to the tower, and they would tell us to enter the Class Charlie airspace and probably make left trap, enter the left base for 0 right, something like that, and just need visual on the airport. Using my binoculars here, zoom in, trying to spot in the airport. For some reason. Should be a relatively large feature. Yeah, thanks, Norse. I'm looking for it. I'm sure you guys watching this have probably seen it like 10 times, and you're like, how do you not see it? Interesting. Let's try the GPS again. It should be just 10 miles away. Over there. Is that it? Oh, the runway is kind of with this photoreal scenery. Makes it a little more difficult to see in standard FSX, which is a good thing. So maybe we would have gotten vectored into a turn. Yeah, the blur is pretty bad. But usually you can kind of see the lights from the runways and stuff. Yeah, I've flown into the airport before in FSX. It looks okay with the photoreal scenery. It doesn't like mess it up or anything. Be just about like 40 degrees off of our nose, so oops. It's probably it over there. I think I was looking too close. That looks like an airport over there. So 3900 will be our pattern. Altitude. Let's kick up our speed a little bit to get closer in. We're not quite lined up, we're not quite ready to turn on to final. This will be a very long final. Yeah, I don't think Boise Airport is one of the ones that's been done for FSX by Payware. It's unfortunately, because I think it would be a good focus for like Orbex, you know, to do some of the fields in Idaho, because they already have their Central Rocky Mountain scenery, regional scenery, and if you make an airport like Boise and then some of the smaller fields in that area, it would make for some really nice VFR flying, I think. Johnson Creek, the place where I took off from, that's some decent freeware scenery. Although I kind of what's the right term here? Sort of ruin it with the photoreal. It cuts off like the sides, and it gets rid of. the airport comes with its own photo reel, and I think blue sky photo scenery kind of like overlaps and cuts out some of it. So the airport looks even nicer if it's without blue sky scenery. But I don't mind too much that it cuts it off. Yeah, they have done Jackson Hole, and I think I like that they released that one for global. I think it was released for global, if I'm not mistaken, and not for the particular region, which is always nice. I have Orbex Global, but I don't have any other regions, although I'm thinking of getting Northern California and probably Southern California when that comes out, once I get back into Pilot Edge. So we can see the localizer coming in. I probably should have used that for reference more than anything. And now we're on final, and we can do our landing checks. So it's a good time for, I guess we're at 110 knots. Flaps can come down. Fuel pump. Gear down. Final approach speed 92 knots. This will be a long approach, but it'll help me practice will help you practice getting lined up at the runway. So it should be easier. It should be better in the sim now that I have the proper zoom plugged in here with a wide view aspect. I'm getting a little turbulence, which is nice actually. I wonder if that's AccuFeel or Cumulus X or something. It's a nice effect. So I'm going to do the landing checks. Gear is down, green. Props set up 30, props full forward, car key not required. Mixture is okay at 75, just make sure to keep it at 90 knots, 92 knots for the speed. Very slow, long final, but that's okay. There's nobody around. I'll take my time. Try to do it right. A little high according to the pappies. Whoa. What's going on? Never gotten that notice before. Go ahead. Oh. The marker beacon. I don't know why that was on. I don't think I turned it on. That's the airport marker, outer marker, or inner marker, or whatever. I don't really use that system myself. I mean, I'm not actually sure what the proper way to use it is. So best to turn it off. Still high. Come down the throttle. Make sure to pitch down to retain the speed. Learn not to rely on the rudder too much for the approach because just the rudder authority isn't great in this aircraft, at least the way it's modeled. So we're back on the approach path more or less. Wouldn't really say I'm stabilized. Still need to practice that in this aircraft, but more or less on the right track. According to the weather, there should be a slight side component to the wind, crosswind component from the left. So once we're over the fence, I'm gonna cut the throttle, and then it's gonna pitch us up a little bit, but we want to land right on the captain's bars. Not too bad. A little off center line, but thankfully with this friction bug fix, we're not drifting to the side anymore. So that is a big win. I'm really happy with that. Okay, so flaps come up. And fuel pump come off. Just gonna take my time slowing down here. Probably should have taken that exit, but that's okay. I should have been on. I can reset and trim later. Welcome to Boise. This will be our taxiway, going to be a right turn out for general aviation parking. So let's see how the friction bug fix works with the taxiing on these standard taxiways. I'm going to try to straighten out here at to get the tail wheel locked and be at about 1,000 RPM and maybe 1,100 RPM, and see if the aircraft moves on its own power. Yeah, it's still moving, which is good. I think it'll wind up again. I think prior to me turning on this bug fix, this aircraft would have stopped moving at 1,100 RPM. So this is good. This is like a decent taxiing speed for it. In real life, it might be a little slow for our purposes, but I could see this aircraft taxiing at this speed. And yeah, in real life, it doesn't take much more, if anything, above regular idling setting for the aircraft to start moving. So keeping the parking brake on is essential. So I'm pretty happy. I didn't get a chance to test out Cumulus X. I didn't feel any effects really from the thermals, even though I got close to the ridges and canyons at some points. But really happy with the wide aspect view fix that helped me with the approach and also with the ground friction bug fix. It's a nice set of fixes for FSX. So let me see where I'm heading. This will be general aviation parking, so I'm going to make a left turn, second left, and then find a place to park over there. And that will be the end of the flight. So I'm glad I'll be finally continuing updating my YouTube channel. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, for those watching the stream, I'll be uploading this one to YouTube. And I do have a YouTube channel. It's the same username, Alex's Flying Club. And I'll be a little more choosy with the videos I put on YouTube. But if you are watching this on YouTube, feel free to head on over to Twitch. It's a great platform, and look for me there, Alex's Flying Club. I do, as of now, fairly regular streams, maybe once or twice a week at this rate. And there's a really nice community of flight sim folks on Twitch. And yeah, that's where I've been doing most of my flying for the past 6 months, in case you were wondering why I haven't made any videos. But Twitch does have an integration with YouTube where you can push your streams onto YouTube. And to me it works better because in general I like kind of more informal style of video making, so to speak. There's a lot of guys out there that spend a lot of time on their videos, and I really like watching those videos, but for me, all the video editing and stuff is time that I can spend flying and streaming and hanging out with other virtual pilots. So Twitch has suited me fairly well, and I do really like it. So I'm gonna stick with it as my primary kind of video making platform. And yeah, but I haven't forgotten about my YouTube channel, and there's a nice community of flights and people on YouTube as well. Alright, so looks like I'll find a nice place for us to park off to our right. If we can get there. Okay, I see it. Taxiway will take us there. Or rather guideline. I'm not really sure what these taxiway lines are called, or if they have a specific name. So, I'm forgetting about my lights. At this point, it'll probably be okay to turn well, definitely okay to, pretty much mandatory to turn the pitot heat off. But the taxi lights will come off here as well. So we're ready to park. That'll do for our purposes. Once I put the parking brake on, you guys won't see it, but Flight Sim Economy should log the flight, hopefully, if all went well. You guys are hearing my guinea pigs in the background. In case you're wondering what those squeaks are, those are my flying companions, Victor and Omar, my pet guinea pigs that are in the other room. And pretty much every stream that I do, they chime in once or twice. Okay, so it looks like we've arrived, and you safe to turn off the engines now. Get those guys. Throttle and props back, and we can turn off the strobes, which we should have done probably after leaving the runway. The avionics can come off before I shut down the engines. Once those guys stop spinning, very good. We turn off the beacon light. And what else are we forgetting? Probably want the tail wheel generators can come off. And although this won't move, You guys may not see it, but in the tooltip, I can see what setting it's on. So I put that on cutoff for the fuel. And then these guys, engine 1 fuel control, yeah, it doesn't just go, it has 2 positions here, even though, yeah, okay. Maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. It's kind of confusing. But the engine fuel valves are both off. And last thing would be to reset trim for the next takeoff. So it looks like, let's do about 0.75 is where I like it. And final step is battery off. And let's let our passengers out. Oh no! Whoops. I accidentally hit Control E instead of Shift E. Oh, that was after the map. Okay, so sorry about that. The engine's Control E is, I think, the automatic engine start key. And Shift E is the open doors key. So let's pretend that didn't happen. And cut the engines and make sure everything's back off. Generators are off. These guys back off. Alright, so now we finally finished the flight. And it's logged in Flight Sim Economy. Let's do an exterior view now that we've arrived in Boise on the VATSIM network. And I want to thank you guys for joining me. And yeah, so I'll be pushing more of these videos to YouTube. And I'm going to just do a quick replay of the landing and play a song as that plays. And you may see a message that I'll put up. You will see it saying flights since last incident or something like that. And that's just the way that I keep track of, kind of keep myself responsible and make sure that I don't do anything stupid during the flights. I kind of, you know, at workplaces where it says so and so many days since last injury or whatever. That's what I like to do with my flights. These are the ones where I try to fly realistically. And there we go. So I did have a crash off I mean, when I was streaming, when I was not streaming during a flight. So I had to reset my counter, but this flight I'll call it a success. So flights since last incident 1. Like that. All right, so I'm going to show you guys a replay, and thanks for stopping by, Norris Gunnar and A2A Pilot, Rush, Fuzzy, and everybody else who is in the chat, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya. Oh, in case you're wondering what this thing is, this is just a couple pillows that I've set up to place my mic on. Probably should have mentioned that in the beginning of the stream, but yeah, so I need to elevate the mic so it's closer and you guys can get better audio, but that's what that's been. Alright guys, see you next time.